Everyone is telling you that this looks like the 1970s. And for once, the people on television are right. Put today's price chart over the one from back then, and it lines up almost perfectly. Same oil shock. Same furious shopper at the register. Same Federal Reserve swearing, it has everything under control. But there is one thing nobody mentions while they're pointing at that chart. The reason the 70s ended is the exact reason this one can't. They show you the disease and quietly leave out that the cure is gone. So here's the part of the comparison they keep cropping out of frame. Meet Jennifer. Jennifer is 38. She earns $82,000 a year, and she's raising 2 kids in a suburb outside Columbus. Every other Sunday, she drives across town to have dinner with her mother, who is 71. And lately, those dinners keep turning into the same argument. Because Jennifer's mother bought her first house in 1979. The same year inflation in this country hit 13%. So when Jennifer complains about prices, her mother says the thing every parent says. We survived it. Rates were sky high, milk doubled, gas lines went around the block, and we came out fine. You will tell too, and Jennifer believes her. That's the trap. Because that story, the one your parents tell, the one that says we beat it before, so we'll beat it again, rests on a single fact that is no longer true. Jennifer's mother did survive the inflation of the 70s. But she survived it because of one brutal decision made by a man named Paul Volcker at the Federal Reserve. And that decision is the one thing Kevin Warsh, the man running the Fed today, physically cannot repeat. To see why, you have to know what actually killed the inflation back then. Not the bedtime story version, the real one. For most of the 1970s, the Fed did exactly what everyone wishes it would do today. It fought inflation gently. It nudged rates up a little, the economy wobbled, people complained, and the Fed backed off. Inflation would calm down for a year, then come back hotter. Sound familiar? By 1979, prices were climbing more than 13% a year, and Americans had simply stopped believing the government could stop it. That loss of belief is the most dangerous thing in all of economics. Because once people expect prices to keep rising, they start behaving in ways that make prices keep rising. Then Volcker walked in, and he did something that would get a Fed chairman thrown out of Washington today. He took interest rates, the basic cost of borrowing money, all the way up to nearly 20%. 20. Think about what that means. A mortgage that costs you 7% today would cost you almost 3 times that. Volcker knowingly drove the entire American economy into a wall. Unemployment shot up toward 11%. Factories shut. Farmers drove their tractors to Washington and blockaded the Fed building. People hated him. And it worked. By 1983, inflation had collapsed from 13% down to around 3%. The fever finally broke. So when Jennifer's mother says we survived it, here's what she actually means. A man was willing to cause a deep, deliberate recession, throw millions of people out of work, and eat the rage of an entire country, all to kill inflation at the root. That was the cure. Not patience, not luck. Engineered pain, delivered through one lever, the interest rate, cranked to a level that's almost impossible to picture now. Which leaves the question that should be keeping you up at night. Why can't they just do that again? This is exactly where the chart they show you stops, because this is the part they don't want on screen. In 1980, when Volcker was breaking inflation, the total debt of the United States government was under $1 trillion. Today, that number is over 36 trillion. And that one difference changes everything because of how government debt actually works. The government doesn't pay its debt off. It rolls it over. It constantly borrows new money to repay the old money. And the price of doing that is the interest rate. The same interest rate Volcker pushed to 20%. So picture what happens if Kevin Warsh tries to play the new Volcker. The second he pushes rates up toward those levels to crush inflation, the interest the government owes on $36 trillion of debt explodes. We're already heading toward more than $1 trillion a year just in interest payments. Just the interest. That's already more than we spend on the entire military. Now imagine tripling the rate on that pile. The math stops making sense. The government ends up borrowing money just to pay the interest on money it already borrowed, which is the exact spiral every collapsed economy in history has fallen into. Volcker could pull the lever because the debt behind it was small. Warsh is staring at the same lever, except now it's wired to a bomb. And it isn't only the government. Back in 1979, the average family barely carried any debt. Credit cards were rare. Most people didn't even have one. Today, Jennifer has a mortgage, a car loan, balances on 2 credit cards, and student loans she's still paying at 38. The whole system, top to bottom, now runs on cheap borrowing. Volcker could shock an economy that wasn't addicted to debt. Today's economy would go into cardiac arrest the moment rates climbed, because every household, every company, and the government itself is leaning on borrowed money just to stay upright. The cure that worked in 1979 isn't just painful now. It's structurally impossible. The escape hatch your parents used has been welded shut. So what does the Fed do instead? It does the only thing it can. It fights inflation softly, one hand tied behind its back, knowing it can never push hard enough to actually win. Lifts rates a little, talks tough, and quietly prays inflation fades on its own, which is the precise strategy that failed for the entire decade of the 70s, right up until Volcker did the impossible. We're running the 70s playbook again, but we've torn out the final chapter, the one where somebody actually ends it. And for Jennifer and for you, that means the slow grind of prices outrunning your paycheck has no clean finish line. It just keeps going. Now, in fairness, let me hand you the strongest argument against everything I just said, because it's a real one. The optimists point out that America isn't like other countries. We borrow in our own dollars. The whole world still wants those dollars, and that buys us room nobody else has. They argue that artificial intelligence and new energy could make the economy so much more productive that we simply grow our way out, the way America partly grew out of its debt after World War II. If the economy expands fast enough, the debt shrinks next to the size of everything else, no Volcker-style pain required. And they're not wrong that it's possible. It has happened before. That is the honest bull case, and you should take it seriously. Here's why I don't bet on it. Growing your way out only works if the growth actually reaches the people getting crushed by prices, and right now, it doesn't. The gains are pooling at the very top, while families like Jennifer's run faster just to stay in place. Betting that a tech boom rescues us before the debt spiral catches us is a real bet, but it's a bet, not a plan. And while we wait to find out, the Fed is stuck doing the one thing the 70s already proved doesn't work on its own. So the comparison everyone's making is right about the disease and dead wrong about the ending. This isn't like the 70s. This is the 70s with the cure removed. Which brings me to you, and I genuinely want your answer down in the comments. Ask yourself which of 3 people you are right now. Maybe you believe the optimists, that growth and technology bail us out and this whole thing fades quietly. Maybe you think it grinds on for years instead, prices slowly winning, no clean ending, and you're already reshaping your life around that. Or maybe you think something eventually breaks hard, and the only real question is when. There's no shame in any of the 3, but the version of you that decides on purpose is going to handle the next few years far better than the version that just hopes it works out. Drop a 1, a 2, or a 3, and tell me what made you land there. I read these, and I build the next videos around what you say.